You know, it takes more than music. I'd love to say it's just music, but it takes a lot of things. I think that body, mind, spirit, family, in terms of social family, all of those things need to be accessed and worked on. And, you know, to keep yourself clean in your head takes a lot of work. I'm sure you know this with yourself, you know, because we get some good and bad things growing up. And a lot of our work, as a client of mine once said, a lot of our work is undoing what was done. And I think that takes
or undoing experiences.
Yeah, undoing messages and reworking those messages. And that takes a lot of work, and I still do it. People think that it gets more automatic for me, but I think that there is a myth that that comes easily. This has been a lifetime of work for me, and I think in our culture we want that immediate gratification, that it's going to be, you know, 3 steps to mental well-being or spiritual well-being. I think that takes work.
You had a pretty good childhood.
It had its ups and downs.
How do you think childhood matters?
I certainly think that childhood obviously influences people's decision making, but it's really interesting that when you look at 2 kids who have had similar ups and downs, the kid that thrives really had an attachment to some kind of adult that they really felt loved by. And it may or may not be a parent. It could be a teacher, it could be a priest, a nun, a rabbi, a neighbor, but someone that really looked at that kid as special. So I think that really says to us how important, you know, those adult mentor relationships are to children. And, you know, we're given a lot. Life happens. And ultimately, it's our responsibility to deal with that stuff. And you know, I have to wake up in the morning and I have to take ownership for my reaction to whatever life gave me, you know, as a child or as an adult. That's my job.
What do you say to an adult now that has a dream, that's stuck in a career or in a career they're not in love with, and they don't feel that they have the strength within them to go out and change?
Right. Well, you know, certainly the great thing about being an adult versus a child is you have more choices available to you. And I think ultimately we as adults have a responsibility to ourselves. Ideally, you know, finding a mentor, someone in the kind of area that you dream about, and starting to connect and hang around those people and develop rapport with those people is quintessential to really opening up doors, because it did for me. You know, I didn't know anybody in this music industry, and now I'm writing with #1 songwriters in Nashville 4 years later. You know, I also, my first EP I wrote with one of the Spin Doctors from, you know,
Wow.
Anthony Kryzan. And it was only because of relationships and meeting people and being open, you know.
And you had no connection whatsoever to
None.
anyone
Dude,
in country.
I had no connection. And I'm
Right.
now living in Nashville part-time, part of
Right.
my fragmented life, you know, and I'm hanging out with some of the best of the best. And I genuinely care about these people. They're great people.
What do you attribute that to?
You know, I was at the doctor the other day, an ENT specialist. They specialize in you know, the nose and throat. And I was looking at the chart, and I saw on the chart a picture of the throat, and it said inspiration. And I was, you know, waiting for the doctor like all of us do, and 45 minutes later she comes in, right?
Exactly.
And I said to her, tell me about inspiration. And she kind of looked at me funny. I said, you know, because on the chart, when the throat is open, air comes in. I said, that's really interesting, because in life, if you're open, if your heart and soul are open, air and vitality can enter. So I think that's a great metaphor for how to be in the world, and not just around career. I think just in terms of connecting with people. It's that kind of matching energy that we're talking about. And Einstein said that, you know, like energy attracts like energy. So it's the same thing with human beings, you know. You're open, you're feeling inspired, you're feeling curious in the world, you're going to find people who are like that. And I have experienced that shift significantly in my life. I was that guy who wasn't open as well.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to be Pollyanna and say I was this dude who, you know, has always had this open mind and spirit. I haven't. But there was a shift.
What was the shift?
You know, I think the shift was hitting rock bottom and feeling miserable. And I was one of those people who unfortunately waited. You know, I definitely had my trials and tribulations in my early 20s and struggled with a number of things that I was able to overcome slowly but surely. And I think that, you know, during that time of my life, it gave me a lot of insight into how people experience their own kind of stuckness now. I think you got to have a lot of empathy and compassion for people, or else you can't do any kind of work and inspire and motivate. You know, if you're sitting from a place of judgment, it turns people off.
So as a songwriter, what are some of the issues that are really close to your heart?
Well, you know, it's funny because it really taps into exactly what we're talking about, and I think that's ultimately why we're here having this conversation, is that my music is meant to inspire and motivate people, and I've spent a good many years having the privilege of hearing people's stories. This is another way of kind of tapping into that experience, and they're meant to really be positive and make people go in and also have a good time doing it. You know, the album is a combination of, you know, ballads. I have one dedicated to my granny, which is my favorite song on the whole album, to other things, other tunes, like there's a tune called Yes, and the chorus of Yes is, I say yes because I'm all run out of no's. You know, so it's really about meant to inspire and get people going in their lives.
Why do you think you chose country as a vehicle?
Country music, in my opinion, is the last of the pop music art forms where the story is dead center up front in your face. It's not hidden. There's so many pop and rock tunes that you go, what are they singing about? You know, and then you end up pronouncing the whole lyrics wrong and make a fool of yourself. But in country, there's no question about what that story is. And look, I'm a storyteller, and I'm a story gatherer. I have listened to stories for many, many years. You know, it's the perfect art form for me. You know, it's this very straightforward, simple way of conveying a message. And that, believe it or not, speaking simply and lyrically in country music is so difficult. As now an educated guy, you know, words, I got lots of fancy words, but say something pure and simple, that takes a lot of work.
You know, if you wanted to sum up your theme, what do you think that would be?
I think you have to kind of dare to be curious about your life. And if you dare to be curious about your life, specific things happen. And we all ultimately are really small little kids walking around as adults. And if you're able to kind of tap into that curiosity that we all came into this world with, and you fearlessly tap into that and start listening to that, I think it can do some pretty cool things in your life.
Cooper, good luck with everything.
Thanks, man.
Extremely inspirational.
Thank you. Thanks for the time.
Thanks.
Take care.